All right. Good morning. Um, we just heard the song by Lauren Daigle, Look Up Child, and I'll go over the lyrics in a bit, but I want to start with something else. And I have been reading a set of books that they just keep adding to the books that are very similar to A Course in Miracles in that they're channeled. They're not channeled by Jesus, but they talk a lot about the Christ presence or the Christ or the true self inside. And I guess I've been reading these for 8 or 9 years. I don't know. They've been out for 10 years. And they, like I said, they keep adding new books. So it's something I do in my morning practice is I'll read a section and I just keep going through the books, and every time I go through them, I get something new. Well, my best friend in Savannah, she actually is on online retreats with the person that presents this information. And she was on a retreat just the other day. Let's see, the date says February 12th. So I'm going to read some of the things that came out of that because she gets transcripts. And the reason I'm doing this is because in the last several years that I've been reading this, well, things happened like the pandemic. All these people were getting sick, all these different things happened. And the books talked about what's really going on is humanity has decided to raise consciousness. Like collectively, on some level, from our higher truth, we have decided that we want to raise the consciousness of this planet. So they have talked about for years now how things are going to just fall apart. The old, like today's Daily Word talks about our old beliefs, our old ways of seeing things, that they have to fall apart for something better, for God to come through into. Now, sure doesn't look like it at times, right? I'm going to share some of what they have to say, and then we'll look at some ways to handle these things. The change that humanity is undergoing at this time is of such a magnitude that there is little one can do but accept the reality that the status quo that you have become accustomed to is no longer, and that the idea of returning to a state of status quo that existed prior to this time is not only unlikely, it would be actually counterproductive. The times that you sit in offer enormous opportunity for realization, and realization not only of the individual, but of the collective. And the challenge that you all have right now is the inclination to move towards a place of fear, to navigate what you perceive as an undertow. Now, the undertow of the energies that you are perceiving now are indeed present, and they are indeed an invitation to hold the self in the lowest strata of vibration that you can find. So what that means is when we're faced with something, and like the old beliefs that the Daily Word talks about, we've been conditioned in certain ways from our childhood or all these different things, and we automatically go into fear a lot of times. And what it's saying is we have an automatic way of being pulled into this undertow of fear. So that's what they're trying to say here. So it's an invitation by the fear to go to a lower strata of vibration. To understand that to stay with a low tone at this time is certainly to give you what you say you don't want. And to tell you that the opportunity to lift to the higher is actually present now. And it will allow you in all ways to ride the wave of transition. Now, the wave of transition that you are experiencing is happening in multiple strata and multiple time. And you must understand that when many currents converge at one time, all of these things are converging at once. They create a kind of vortex to lift and propel you individually and collectively to a higher place where you are assuming a realized state. So we have an opportunity to come out of the old thinking, the old ways of believing, and it's going to take work, so I have some ideas about how we can do that. But they also say this isn't the time to be comfortable. This is a time to wake up to the discomfort that you experience and ask the divine self or the God within you, how can I be present in this? How may I know myself in this? How may I support my brother, my sister, my neighbor in this? How can I lift through this chasm that I experience to the light that I know must be there? So an example would be, during the pandemic, after a period of time and things were evolving, so it was starting to get safer and not everybody had to wear a mask anymore. I've mentioned this before, I think. I realized people were just not looking at each other. They were sad. I just started talking to people in grocery stores and parking lots. And people were so grateful. We'd have conversations about God even. So even if we're going through something, taking a moment just to be there for somebody else is such a gift. And it pulls us out of our stuff too. Let's see. We understand the times that you all find yourself in, the times that you find yourself in have been prophesied in one way or another for some time. Humanity itself is in the midst of enormous transition, and your realization of your true nature is not only present, but is present as manifest in, as, and through all of you. The challenging times that you find yourself in are indeed useful for the evolution not only of the individual, but of the culture and of the world that you know yourselves through. It is the divine self that rises from the undertow and claims in higher perspective. So we just listened to Lauren Daigle's song, and I'm going to share the lyrics with you. They didn't all show up on the screen. Where are you now, where darkness seems to win? Where are you now when the world is crumbling? I hear you say, look up, child. Look up, child. Where are you now when all I feel is doubt? Where are you now when I can't figure it out? I hear you say, look up, child. You're not threatened by the war. This is talking to God. God, you're not threatened by the war. You're not shaken by the storm. I know you're in control, even in our suffering, even when it can't be seen. I know you're in control. And then she just keeps going back to look up, child. So how do we look up, child? How do we take that on when, things in the world are crazy, our own personal lives, we have losses, we have health challenges, whatever it is that's going on. We need tools, right? So the tools that I'm going to share today that we've all heard before and are the 5 unity principles. And I'm going to do them backwards. I'm going to start with 5 because I want us to remember the first one. Okay, so the 5th one is, it is not enough to understand spiritual teachings. We must apply our learning in all areas of life, incorporating them into our thoughts, our words, and our actions. So today, the Daily Word talked about thoughts, right? Our words. So I've been reading this book called The Thought Exchange, and this man, I didn't write down his name. I have the book here if anybody wants me to put it up later. He actually taught the Thought Exchange at Unity of New York. But he mentions in the book Edwin Gaines. And Edwin Gaines, she used to do the prosperity teaching stuff. But she suggested in this one workshop he went to have 21 days of not complaining. So that's our words. I'm only laughing because I would have to start over every day, because if you complain one day, you're going to have to start over, because if that includes our thoughts, okay, well, anyway, if anybody wants to take on the 21-day challenge, it's right before Easter, right? We can give up complaining for Lent. So it's our thoughts, words, and actions. We all have been listening to spiritual teachings from Unity in many places for years, right? And so let's look at thoughts, words, and actions. So number 4, prayer and meditation. Actually, I found there was another AI interpretation. So I'm going to read those too because they're a little longer. So they wrote down 5 as living the truth. Spiritual understanding must be applied in daily life. Through thoughts, words, and actions, individuals embody the truths they know, practicing forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and service. So the 4th one is prayer and meditation connect and align us to our own spiritual nature within God. Prayer and meditation connect and align us to our own spiritual nature within God. These practices align the heart and mind with God, fostering spiritual connection and inner guidance. Tools such as affirmations and denials are used to reinforce spiritual alignment. One of the things I started doing, I don't know, maybe in the last 6 months, I always take time. 99% of the time I take time, or 95% of the time I take time. I sit every morning in the same spot and take time in the quiet. And I started to just talk to God with pen and paper and ask questions. And sometimes I get an answer. And what I want to say is there's so many different ways to pray and meditate. And we all, I'm sure, have different ways. I've tried Eastern ways for many years. But my goal since I was a little kid was to know God, was to find God and to know God. And that God exists not only everywhere present, also right in here. And that God, that truth, that source, loves having a relationship with us, loves it. And it will never let us down. It's always here. It's the truth of our being, it's the spark of the divine within. And it's not thrown off by the wars or the struggles or anything. It's the part of us that doesn't fit inside this body. It's bigger than the body. It's so connected to everything and everyone. And when we have an experience of that, even if it's just one time, we know ourselves as so much more. So I want to encourage people, everyone here today, to take time and just start to try to hear God's voice in the quiet. And without getting frustrated, just try it. You know, we all do our talking to God. It'd be wonderful to hear too. So the third one is our thoughts have created power to influence events and determine our experiences. And then the other one is thoughts are powerful and shape reality. Individuals are co-creators with God, and we can focus on positive, constructive thoughts, which can influence our experiences. And then the daily word, growing and deepening in spiritual understanding may mean releasing ways of thinking that no longer serve me. So there's a lot of people going around these days going, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And if we keep doing that, that's what we're going to keep seeing. So the thought exchange talks about taking a thought that doesn't serve us and changing it to something else. So if I'm upset about what's going on in the world and I go, oh, well, it's crazy. How do I change that thought? So what could I say? God, I know you're in control. Isn't that what the song says? I may not understand what's going on, but I know that your plan is here and I can't see it yet. Now that's a long. So I wanted to kind of just take a moment and see if anybody had a thought about the world or about their life that they are feeling that they'd like to look at the opposite of. So instead of the world's going to hell in a handbasket, we can say, God is holding the world in his hands. Something shorter than what I was saying. Does anybody want to unmute and just say a thought that they've heard from somebody else about the world and just let's turn it, let's change it. Come on, somebody.
I would like to mention the peace monks that made the walk from Texas, that seemed to raise the spiritual a spiritual awakening for many people, many hundreds, according to. And what I notice is that when wrongs are done in this country, people make known how they feel about it. So thousands of people are getting out on the streets to protest what the wrongs that are being done in America. And so I think there is, in my mind, it's much bigger than the media shows. I think the consciousness raising in in the world and in America and all around the world. And I, I feel it in my neighborhood, and I feel it in my life, and I see it out playing. So,
So you're holding the thought consciousness is raising then.
and peace,
Okay, good.
that more people
Yeah.
are conscious of what peace means in their life, in their family. You
Hmm.
know, when I was a teacher in DC public schools for second graders,
Oh my
every
God.
time they lined up and shuffled and pushed each other, I would say, "Where does peace begin?" And they would say, "Peace begins with me." And they would
Oh,
put their little
nice.
hand over their heart. I did that with each second grade class each time they lined up for 6 years. And I felt that was a consciousness raising
Hmm.
for my classes, for their families. And, over, I didn't know it at the time, of course, but
Hmm.
I feel in thinking about what that meant to some of the children. And I never, as a white person in a black school, I was one of four white people in a
Hmm.
black environment, which was only love for me. And
Nice.
so, in that environment, I felt a belonging. I felt a peacefulness for the entire 6 years I was there.
Wonderful.
And I feel that in looking back, of course, I did not know it at the time, but in looking back, I feel that just saying the word peace several times a
Right.
day.
Hmm.
And I went out on the playground with the kids to help them implement peace in their little fights and their little disputes. And so I was present with them. And I'm eternally grateful for that experience of peace. But to get back to the point, I feel that the word peace is coming up more, and
Okay.
people are really beginning to understand how that plays out.
Hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to share a thought?
Yeah, I'll give one. It's not specific, but I think the phrasing that I hear a lot, you said something that you just hear in the world,
Right.
and I'm
Hmm.
sure I do it myself too, is blaming. If you have a
Hmm.
thought that's blaming somebody for something,
Right.
you know, then you need to turn that around. It's like when Patty was talking about peace, back in the 60s in college, we wanted peace, but we were blaming, you know, the government, the, conservative, the old ways. We were blaming them for us not having peace rather than taking
Right.
action, right? It was like, oh, those are bad guys. Um, but but I think when when one's reaction is if there's something wrong, to blame and say, oh, that's because of this, that's because of that, that guy's not good. And you hear that a lot. We wouldn't be
Hmm.
having these problems if we had a better whatever, whether it's leader or person in charge of the homeowners association or whatever it is,
Right.
um, that if there was a better person there, it's their fault, and when it's really our responsibility. Anyway,
Hmm.
that was my thought with what you had. Do you have one?
Well, that goes into, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm gonna wait till you finish your thought, but I had one too. I was thinking about it, and I think I finally have the way to word it.
Okay, go ahead. I think she was going on, so if you
Uh,
want to give it, yeah, go to now.
Go ahead.
are you sure?
Hmm.
Sometimes the major bit of negativity that I hold on to is that everybody is on a team, and to be for anything, I have to be against a bunch of people.
Mm.
Like even in that moment with the monks, a guy tried tried to get them to bring anger into the thing. He said, "Aren't you angry about this?"
Mm-hmm.
And they turned it around, but I don't know if I could turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I don't want. My whole life I've been struggling with the idea of division.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that has me think about the affirmation actually that they suggest in the book. It doesn't have in the um, see, I trust that God's going to have me say the right thing that I left out, or because somebody's going to say something and it's going to come out and I'm going to go, oh yeah, you want me to say that, huh? Okay. So with the thing that I was reading in the beginning, there's an affirmation that they suggest. Every book has an affirmation and they build because consciousness is raising. This is the one. It's, if you can't change a thought around, do this. I am in God. I am of God. I am with God. And then, if it's about somebody else blaming, you say, you are in God.
Mhm.
You are of God. You are with God.
Mhm.
And then the final one is we.
Mhm.
We are in God. We are of God. We are with God. So sometimes I know it's really hard to turn a thought around. So having an affirmation like that could help in that time. So, and also with the blaming, it takes us right into the second unity principle. Human beings are innately good because they are connected to and an expression of spirit. And then the other one is every person is inherently good because the essence of God, or the Christ within, dwells in all. This principle encourages compassion, understanding, and the recognition of the divine spark in oneself and others. Now, sometimes we can't see that spark in somebody else. Sometimes we come across events or experiences that just seem so dark that we can't see that spark. And what the work that I've been talking about says is that this is the denial of the divine. Now, maybe people were brought up this way. They were brought up as an atheist, or they worship something else besides Source, or they just have had trauma in their lives, and so they live inside a dark mindset. There's still the spark of the divine in them. It's still there. It's just hard to see because they've denied it. They either don't know the truth or they can't believe that it's possible. So going back to that affirmation of you are in God, of God, and with God, it's an opportunity for us to raise the vibration in that, because our mind automatically will go into fear. It's just conditioned that way. Or into blaming, which is a form of fear. And if we can turn it around with that, and even add in our own thoughts, I know the spark of the divine is in you. May you find it someday. Could be like that, because we have this spiritual background. We are the ones who can help raise the vibration of this planet by using these unity principles and other skills and tools that we have. So number one, God is everywhere and always present in every circumstance. this divine energy underlies and animates all of existence. There is only one universal presence and power called God, which is active in all aspects of life and the universe. Recognizing this divine presence helps individuals see the sacred in every moment. All right, so now I'm going to tell you a funny story. Now, why in the world would she be talking all this serious stuff and then tell a funny story? Because I want you to remember it. And a lot of times we'll remember humor, right? Last Mother's Day, before Mother's Day, I told my daughters, look, I don't want any stuff. I have stuff. I don't want any stuff. You can give me flowers if you want, but I don't want any stuff. Well, I'm one of these people that on the holidays, particularly Christmas, I always do a joke present. Somebody gets a joke present, and I've talked about this before. So I'm always doing, at least at Christmas, doing something like this, sometimes birthdays. So what does my daughter do? She goes to the thrift store and gets 3 things, two for 50 cents each and one for $1. She said, I really had to think about that dollar one. I don't know. So she comes, we meet at a park in Berryville for Mother's Day. So she brings me a bag, right? I'm like, I told you I didn't want any stuff. I didn't say this out loud, but I'm thinking this, right? Told you I didn't want any stuff. So I'm opening these things up, right? She doesn't tell me they're from the thrift store till afterwards, and they are the one, I'm the butt of the joke this time, where usually they are. So I open it up. The first thing is a reusable straw, this little straw that folds up into this little teeny thing. I'm like, when am I gonna, like, I'm thinking, when am I going to use this? I told her I don't want any stuff. The second thing is a little dish that looked like it came from Target or something in colors I just, like, that's not me at all. And then the third thing that cost $1 instead of 50 cents was this little frog. So she said, I'm like, why are you doing this? So then she brings out the joke that she got him at the thrift store. And she said, I really had to think about that frog, but that frog is so ugly, I had to get it. Well, I didn't think it was ugly. I thought it was kind of cute. So I put it in my garden in a little pot of flowers after Mother's Day. Well, then I got the idea on her birthday. I cleaned up the frog and I went to the dollar store and got a little box that it would fit in that had happy birthday and balloons and all this stuff over this little cardboard box. So it looked like it was a present. And I stuck it in there and I videotaped it. So then, of course, she was like, I don't want this frog. Get it out of here, right? So then I get the frog back from her because I was going to hit my other daughter up with it. Her birthday was in September. Erin's was in August. Well, Stacy's standing right there when Erin starts talking about the frog. And I'm like, well, you just ruined that one. So I held on to that frog till December. And we all went to Stacy's house, my other daughter's, for Christmas. So I had this frog hidden in a cooler. And when everybody was out of the room, I tried twice to find a place to put it. Finally, I went, oh, she has this stocking that she's had that I got for her when she was like 3 years old, right? And it's shaped like a Santa and has a little pouch. So I went, oh, I'm going to put it in there. So I put this frog in the pouch. Well, they don't put anything in that. So it was after Christmas when she found it. And it was the day we were meeting. What were we meeting for? Oh, we were meeting. It, I put it in at Thanksgiving. That's what it was. And then we were meeting for Christmas at my other's daughter's house. And she texts that morning, I found the frog. So I'm like, and I told him this year, I don't want any presents for Christmas. I don't want any presents. Don't give me any presents. So I wrote back, oh, so glad I told you I didn't want any presents. Well, I get there, and of course, there's no presents. But as I'm leaving, they give me a big bouquet of flowers. I'm like, oh, that's really pretty. And I get home and I go to open them up and I cut the little rubber band. Out comes the frog. So they got me. So I think this little guy's kind of cute. Somebody said it looks like a frog at Disney. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to share with you another frog. This little guy makes me laugh so much. I put him on the little table next to where I do my spiritual morning practice. Because he's funny, he's goofy. Look at those eyes, right? It makes you laugh. Why? Because FROG stands for fully rely on God. I want you to remember that. But I also want you to remember something that I came across in my mind. Frequently review our guidelines. I just made it up. It came into my mind. What are our guidelines? The 5 unity principles. So whatever we're going through, whatever it is, whether it's worldly stuff, personal stuff, loss, misunderstandings, blamings, whatever we're in the middle of, God is in control. We can fully rely on God while frequently reviewing or remembering our guidelines. God bless.